sandwiches with like, fried chicken sandwiches on donuts or anything like that. It's just two separate things. You got your fried chicken and your donuts. But I ate there one more time this week because I had a day off and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go get donut and fried chicken. And it's really good. It's really filling though because like I don't eat a whole lot these days, and like one chicken sandwich, like I could barely finish it because I mean by the time you get the chicken done and then you get the batter done and then there's coleslaw on it too or whatever they put on it. I mean it's like really good chicken too. So I mean you taste it and it's just like oh this chicken, and it's just so good. So I don't know. Either way, it's just been one of those places, and when you eat food and it tastes really good and you want to keep going, but then you know that if you do, you're gonna get fat, kind of thing. It's definitely those foods that when you eat it, it's like, wow, wow, I'm totally gonna get fat by this. So, new fried chicken and donut place, and oh yeah, their donuts are also good too. I mean, most places when you eat them, it's like donuts, like you just eat the donut and it's just like a donut. But I mean, this place's donuts are like I don't know, they're pretty good. Like they have a bunch of different flavors of them, and I tried most of them, and most of the donuts kind of like tasted almost the same. Like I mean, in the end, a donut tastes like a donut, but it just depends on what kind of icing you have on it and stuff. And the two really interesting flavors they had they had 7 flavors of donuts, and their donut flavors change day to day, so that it's not like the same every day. It's just kind of whatever they depend on making. So the one they had there that I didn't try was like a rose hip and hibiscus one, because I'm not a big fan of flowery tastes or anything like that. So I was like, yeah, I think I'll pass on that one. But I mean, other than that, they had a cookies and cream donut, and that was like it was like white chocolate icing on it, and then it had like little crumples of like Oreo in it, and it was like one of the best tasting things I think I've ever had, like in terms of a donut. Because I mean, for me, it's just like I don't know, it's all very simple for me, but yeah, donuts. The other ones were like there was like a honey glazed one, which is pretty standard, and then there was like a maple glazed one, um, and then there was the maple glazed one was really good. I'm not a big fan of the taste of maple, but yeah. Dickus Con in chat. The best donuts I ever had were in Red Deer. Really good Oreo donut. See, it always depresses me when people are like, "Oh man, I tried like the best donut ever in this part of the world," and it's like, why can't it ever be really close? Yeah. So either way, I mean, for me, donuts are donuts. My favorite donut in particular is an apple fritter, but I'll get to donuts in a couple weeks. Donuts are going to be a part of the breakfast series when I start talking about pastries and muffins and stuff like that. All the stuff that you eat for breakfast, but they're kind of a thing you could have for dessert. So that's all that I've been really doing in the last week or so. Um, so in the last week was also round two of the Games Done Quick registrations, and registration was a bit of a snafu. I mean, in the end, everything worked out, and my group got everything we wanted, but it was definitely a snafu. Like, I mean, it was the same kind of stuff that happens all the time, but it's like, schedule opens up and it's like, okay, so hotel bookings open up at this time on this day. Don't miss it. And so we're like, okay, we just need to get some people to, stand around and, book the hotel and make sure everything's all good to go. Meanwhile, I work until 6 a.m. that day, so I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be awake for that, so good luck. So people get in place, they do the registration thing. Oh, all the rooms are booked. What's going on here? Turns out that registration opened 3 hours early than it was supposed to. And it's like, Somebody dropped the ball on that one. So, yeah. In the end, like I said, it all worked out for me. But I mean, in the end, it's like, you know, it still kind of sucks for people. I mean, you get in there and people tell you, okay, here it is, and then it's like, so I don't really have a lot more to say about that. It's like it's just kind of let's just throw that out there that they need to be more on the ball, but at the same time, it's like it's not like this is the first time it's happened, so I don't know. I don't really have much more to say about that. Um, AGDQ this year is in a new place in Maryland, which is kind of exciting because it's like it's a new place to visit. And I'm really excited about this one, mostly because a lot of this is probably going to be like the biggest congregation of friends together at a GDQ from my main friend group that I chat with online. So that's really cool. Another thing that I really like is that there's a lot of places to eat and a lot of things to do around the hotel. So it's not like a hotel stranded in the middle of nowhere. In 3 months, I'm sure I'll do a Games Done Quick show, and then I'll kind of showcase exactly what did happen. But so far, it's just positive thoughts about it. But who knows how it's gonna go, really? I mean, literally anything could happen at this point because there's always some sort of crazy stuff that happens at these GDQ events that nobody sees coming, and people get ejected, and there's all sorts of drama. And hopefully there will be no like super drama this year because of all the policing that people are doing in quotation mark conventions nowadays because of all the terrible shootings that are going on in the world. So yeah, I'm just kind of hoping for the best on that one. Hopefully everything will work out good. I mean, there's always a chance that there's something that could go wrong, but again, I'm just not going to think about that and hope everything goes just fine. So that's pretty much what's going on with that. Um, Last bit of info before I get over to the thing is just kind of capping on what I said earlier. I got my EverDrive finally, so hopefully I'll be using that to have some fun with stuff. I mean, like I said, it's all just mostly for ROM hacks and stuff like that. There's a tournament version of Smash 64 I might throw in there just to have it. Um, but again, it runs deep. I mean, if there's something that I want to do, it's just easier to plug it in. I'm sure not everything works on EverDrive, as some ROM hacks are kind of better or not better, but I mean, kind of not. I don't know, wonky is the word I'm looking for, I guess, but I really don't know all about that. So I'm just gonna play it by ear with that one and have fun with it, and hopefully everything's gonna work out just fine with that. So, the main topic of the week is all about breakfast. And I need to quickly run to the other room because my water bottle is there, so I will be right back. Surprise, surprise, it was actually in the same room, just on my bookshelf. Holla, holla. You know, it's like my nose never ever gets runny, but for some reason when I do these shows, like I always have to blow my nose, or you'll hear me sniffle or something. That goes away the moment the mic's off. I don't know what's going on with that, but another thing is, you get really thirsty when you talk a lot, so I might have to reach for water a couple times. Anyway, first off, I just wanted to give a brief overview of what the next couple weeks are going to look like. I don't know exactly how I'm going to lay out all my shows yet, but I want to do a big talk about breakfast because I'm usually never awake to eat breakfast because I'm usually really up really late and I usually work really early as well. So, like I said, I'm just never awake. So, but I love eating breakfast. Breakfast is the easiest meal to make ever. Like you can throw literally anything together and call it breakfast, and it's good, and it works. So I kind of wanted to just talk about like what exactly the idea of breakfast is to someone like me. And then on top of that, just talk about all sorts of breakfasty things and breakfasty foods. And I broke it down week to week based on the categories I feel like the foods fit under. Um, Obviously, some are going to be a little more in depth than others because I can only talk so much about a sausage compared to like eggs. Because I mean, there's a billion things you can do with eggs in breakfast. But for sausages, I mean, sure, there's tons, but I really doubt I could branch branch out quite that much. So that's just how that's gonna go. So for this week, I'm gonna talk about the main three things, and this was actually prompted by Twitter user uh, Amin Azmi, and I thought it was. I mean, everyone always talks about this. Everyone always argues about this. It's on everywhere. Pancakes versus waffles, 100%. But literally everyone forgets about French toast, the hidden killer. So I'm gonna combine all three, and we're gonna talk about basically the titans of breakfast, of like traditional breakfast, um, which are in terms of like carbs. So waffles, French toast, and pancakes. So first, I'm going to go over basically how they're made. I'm going to talk about little different things, like I don't know, like how they're served, kind of thing, what they're served with. I'm basically going to try and just talk my brain out about pancakes, waffles, and French toast, and that's how the show is going to go. So I made a Twitter poll earlier today. So I have lots of people's opinions on the subjects. I asked people to vote what their favorite was, and then to give me a little brief summary if they voted for what they voted for. Well, not what they voted for because I mean that's obvious, but I mean like for what they voted in the poll, I wanted them to give me the best example they could of how they would have the food dressed up for like breakfast. The best way that you could possibly serve it. So, um, people can like kind of have an idea of like who's eating what kind of thing. So, that's pretty much that's pretty much the way I was gonna go with this. So, first off, it's uh, first off is going to be pancakes, waffles, and French toast. That's today's show. Next week, I want to touch on eggs, which is just like all the different forms, variations, and recipes that I can think of when I think of eggs for breakfast. Then after that, I'm going to talk about cereal, both hot and cold cereal. And that one is more just isn't going to be so much of like a foodie kind of show. It's more just going to be about like judging all my breakfast cereals that I can think of. Um, and then of course there's other things like oatmeal and cream of wheat and stuff like that. And I mean, the list goes on and on, but I mean, everyone obviously has their own preferences to what they enjoy and what they don't. So I mean, take what I say, what you will. This is just me basically going over my opinions and thoughts on breakfast. And yeah. Backing up to the previous topic, I forgot to mention that the game of the week that I'm playing as I do my real talk is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Uh, it's a very good game. If anyone hasn't played it, who lives under a rock, that's, you know, definitely recommend it on either the Game Boy Advance or Super Nintendo. And then after I touch on cereal, I'm probably going to be talking about meats and pastries together in one show because I don't think I can talk about either one for long enough. And then after that, I'm going to talk about traditional breakfasts. That's like, your traditional breakfast combinations. And then how I like to have breakfast in general, which is a hodgepodge of food. So, for those of you who are unaware or completely living under the rock for however many centuries it takes to not know what anything is, um, pancakes, I'm going to start with, are basically, they're like flat bread cakes. Um, Pancakes are, I wouldn't say really, they're not, none of them are really doughy, but I can't think of it. It's more cakey. Like when you rip into a pancake, it's got a very flaky kind of texture in the middle. And I don't mean flaky as in like layers of butter flaky. I just mean like it's very soft and like soft like a sheep's wool kind of thing. Like a good pancake should not be like flat or anything like that. And I mean, it depends on how thick you make the pancakes too. Like the thicker you make the pancake, the fluffier it's going to be on the inside. So pancakes are like super fluffy. They're flat. To prep a pancake, it's like you don't really even need to try to make pancakes. I mean, like you can buy a store-bought pancake mix, like that has just all the dry ingredients together, and then all you need to do is add water. Or you can buy like different pancake mix that needs like water and eggs inside. And so with the water and the eggs, I mean it's all just a good fluffy pancake. So pancakes are usually made in a griddle or a frying pan. Some flat surface because you fry pancakes. Um, Pancakes are like when you mix all the dry stuff and wet stuff, it doesn't really matter how you do it. You just kind of lump it all together and kind of mix it into like a lumpy soup, I guess. Um, there isn't really rhyme or reason. The only really main thing to think about when you're making a pancake is that you don't want to mix the batter too much, otherwise it gets really runny, and that just doesn't make a good pancake. They kind of fall apart, and well, not really fall apart, but they get really soupy and hard to form, I guess. So that's pretty much a simple pancake. I mean, you can put all sorts of stuff in it too. Like for me, I personally prefer putting nothing in pancakes. Maybe if I'm getting like super adventurous, I'll throw some M&Ms in there or like mini baking M&Ms kind of thing and have it in there, but for the most part, I just like make them all plain. And for the sake of judging each of these, I'm going to talk about like making them plain. I'm also going to read off a bunch of comments left on my Twitter poll because they were all really, really delicious sounding, and I was reading them this morning before I had my breakfast, which was not a very traditional breakfast. I've been eating a lot of poke for breakfast, and if you guys don't know what poke is, it's like it's like raw tuna, except it's all cubed up and all delicious and with all sorts of other stuff. So yeah. Anyway, So that's a basic pancake. You know, you just throw your simple baking powder, flour, sugar, salt, just dump it all together, throw in some eggs, throw in some water, and then you got yourself easy pancakes. And then of course butter. It's always good to have butter in there too. And then traditionally, I mean, you might see some stacked on top of each other with some syrup or some butter. Easy. Nice pancake. Waffles are almost the same as pancakes. Waffles have in the waffle batter, there's almost the exact same ingredients as a pancake. So like it's all the same ingredients. If you're making sourdough waffles, you'll obviously have a sourdough culture in there as well, and that's just some living bacteria that you throw in there, which sounds disgusting, but I mean it's just how sourdough lives. Anything made from sourdough will have that sort of bacteria in it that kind of ferments. But it's all really good stuff. Anyway. So anyway, the main difference between waffle batter and pancake batter is that waffle batter usually has more oil in it. Because waffles are not meant to be fluffy. They're meant to be fluffy, but they're not prepared in the same way. Waffles are fried rather than uh, like they're fried in oil rather than like fried on a sheet or a frying pan. So like when you make a waffle, you need a special device called a waffle iron. You can use other you can I mean I'm sure you can make it in something else, but I mean waffles have a very particular shape to them. Whereas pancakes, they're just round masses of batter that you just kind of shove all there, and you can make them into whatever shape you want, I suppose. But at the same time, it's like, you can't really make them into whatever. Well, I guess you can make them into whatever shape you want, but just kind of like depends. Like Valentine's Day, you might want to make some heart-shaped waffles, kind of thing. So I don't know. It's can't really think of what I want to say about that. That's just all there is to it. Waffles are delicious, or pancakes are delicious. Anyway, waffle batter is almost the same as pancake batter, except it has a little more butter in it, or oil if you're using oil. And when you make a waffle, you're frying it in metal. So like you grease up a frying pan like real good, like real like good, and then from there you just like pour the batter on the hot greased metal, and then just press it down. And waffles make all these. It's like little square patterns in it. Most waffle makers make them round, but some will make them square as well. It just kind of depends, I guess, but either way, they all taste the same. And because of the higher butter or oil content in them, it makes a really crispy outer edge to the waffle. So you get like this nice crispy bite right before you hit the hot, fluffy interior. So that's pretty much about that. Um, so waffles can be served both sweet and savory. Obviously, pancakes, it's really hard to serve a savory pancake because pancakes on their own are pretty dry. But I mean, waffles, because they have that outer shell and their inner inside, it's a lot easier to just eat a waffle straight up, in my opinion. But that's just me. Um, so lastly, so waffles and pancakes, they're pretty close to the same, but pretty different. Then last, you have French toast. And French toast is definitely, a lot of people leave it off their list when they compare, bready food things, because, I mean, French toast is literally bread. So the most basic French toast is you take a slice of bread and you dip it in some beaten egg mixed with milk. You don't really need to even you don't need to mix it with milk, but it it helps soak into the bread, and that's what you want to do when you make French toast. Is you basically want to soak bread in milk. Like it sounds disgusting, but it's actually really good. So what you do is you take egg and you take milk and you whisk it all together, and you might mix whatever else in there. You can throw in some vanilla, you can throw in some cinnamon, but for basic, it's just, milk, whatever. You take the bread piece that's been soaking in this stuff, and then you fry it. And what it does is, like a pancake, it makes a nice dark outer bread, but then the inside is still kind of soft because it hasn't like fully absorbed all the sog, I guess. And I know that's a really disgusting way to describe it, but if you fully cook French toast and it's dry on the inside, you're basically just eating an egg covered piece of bread. So you don't really want to do that. So again, French toast are served usually sweet. All three of them have different topping requirements, in my opinion, but I mean, it's all up to personal preference. People can eat whatever they want and not be judged. So, so French toast. Uh, there's not a whole lot more to say about that. That's all the prep really is. You just get a frying pan or a griddle. I prefer using frying pans because I don't own a griddle, but if you have a griddle, what a griddle is, for those who don't know, is just like it's a big long like baking tray. It kind of sits up and it plugs into an outlet, and then it just gets really hot. It's a large flat. It's basically like a stovetop, but you can move it around kind of thing. So it's like you can just cook directly on it. And yeah, really helpful if you're into this kind of thing. But again, it's just really easy to do it with a frying pan as well. So that's pretty much it for preparation. I mean, like I said, the easiest one to make is French toast because I mean, obviously that's just how it is. Um, there's very little ingredients you need. W Waffles and pancakes are a lot more like baking, but French toast is like, I mean, it's just toast dipped in eggs. Like, it's hard to get any easier than that. So so for preps and toppings, I mean, it all really depends on exactly what it is you're eating them for. So I'll start with pancakes, and I don't think many people added pancakes to my list at all. Um, Pancakes are out of the three of pancakes, waffles, and French toast. I think that pancakes are probably the least strong for me. Um, but it definitely serves a certain certain taste. Like for example, if you want something that's nice and warm and flaky, then you'll obviously go for a pancake over top of anything else. Um, uh, Banana Nana Batman says on Twitter in response to my poll, cinnamon sugar on pancakes works, or waffles. He says, um, uh, waffles. Um, Mad Girl Len said in my poll, sweet pancakes with chocolate cream rolled up and cut up. So that would be like you take a pancake, put some Nutella or something on it, or some sort of chocolate something, and roll it up. that sounds absolutely delicious to me. But just kind of depends. Uh, there's a lot of different ways I like to have pancakes, and I mean I can go through it. I just want to read through the rest of these comments about pancakes. Um, Candy Boots 17 said, "I'm basic, just a regular pancake with maple syrup, but I've eaten a Cinnabon pancake, which is like a huge pancake, but with like cinnamon and syrup, and it's really sweet and about gives me diabetes, but it's worth it, lol." So, I've never had a Cinnabon. I don't know if they have Cinnabon in Canada, but I've heard people talk about like Cinnabon like cinnamon buns, and yeah, I don't know, like yeah. Um, let's see what else we got here. Pancakes with butter and maple syrup, simple and delicious. Said Big Bass 1997. Um, Waffles can be good too, but I love thick pancakes better. Yep, sounds pretty good to me. Um, it's pretty much all the polls I had for pancakes up. Uh, Pancakes are like, I feel like they're the least versatile, but they're the most consistent. Like whenever you have a pancake, it's really hard to have a bad pancake unless like it's unless it's made wrong. Like if someone puts in too much flour or too much salt or too much this and that, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, how am I supposed to eat this disgusting pancake, right? But if it has the right amount of stuff in it, every pancake should taste about the same. Like there's not a lot of like the raw ingredients themselves definitely don't taste very good. And I mean, I've made some very terrible pancakes in my life. Like, the kind of pancakes where you eat one and you just kind of like roll it out of your mouth because you just can't believe how disgusting your pancake tastes. But I mean, when that happens, it's usually because you messed up the recipe. And I definitely have done that once or twice, but I mean, it's an easy fix. Just scrap the batter and make a new one next time, kind of thing. Um, Waffle batter, on the other hand, is about the same. Like, I've had bad waffles too, but I find it's harder to make a bad waffle, just because with bad waffles, with bad waffles, you have to like you have to make them too thin almost because a waffle once it's cooked almost always tastes the same. Like the way waffles just are kind of only have one flavor. Like I mean you can put whatever you want in them and that'll obviously change like what the waffle tastes like. But for the most part, like it's hard to make a bad waffle unless you like again mix up the recipe. And of course, cooking long enough is important as well. And I mean that's the same for both pancakes and waffles because if you undercook a pancake, you'll just like put that like terrible batter in your mouth and it like won't be fully cooked and you'll just hate yourself after that. Like it's really it's really easy to not fully cook something like that, but I mean at the same time, like when in doubt, just use the toothpick test. Like you can't toothpick test a waffle because obviously you got it in your waffle iron and you can't like toothpick test it, but I mean the thing about waffles is that waffles are cooked evenly on both sides, whereas a pancake you have to flip. So if you're cooking a pancake and you flip it too early and don't, re-flip it to, you see like half-formed air bubbles, then obviously your pancake is going to taste terrible. But for for a waffle, it's pressed up against hot metal on both sides. So it's going to be cooked on both sides the same. So if you lift up a waffle and if you lift up your waffle or waffle iron and your waffle isn't cooked, you're definitely going to see it because clearly it's just not going to be cooked. Like when you cook a waffle, you can cook them to like a nice golden brown, which I mean you can for a pancake too. But I mean for pancakes you more have to like, check underneath, make sure everything's all good, and then just bam, there's the pancake. But like I said, waffles, it's like it's hard to undercook a waffle just because of how waffles are processed. Um, French toast is the definitely the lone breaking distance, not breaking distance, but the lone the tiebreaker of the two. Because again, it's really hard to cook French toast or to undercook French toast, but at the same time, it's actually really easy because it depends on a couple different things. So, first off is the slice of your bread. If your bread is really, really thick sliced, you're going to have to cook it longer. And if you cook your bread slice, or if you cook your bread slice not long enough, then your bread is going to be undercooked in the inside. And I mean, you don't want it fully cooked and dry on the inside because that just doesn't make good French toast, in my opinion. But but if you don't cook it long enough, you'll take a nice crispy outer bite of French toast, and then on the inside there'll just be mushy bread. And mushy bread is, I mean, it's not the most disgusting thing ever because I mean, like it's just soggy bread. That's literally all it is. But at the same time, you don't want to eat soggy bread. You want to eat something delicious that you made for breakfast. And making something wrong for breakfast is definitely like just the most disappointing thing ever because it's usually early in the morning and you're like, I just want to cook something. Why is my pancake all burnt and stuff like that? And then you go, oh, well, maybe I'll make waffles instead. But I don't know, maybe your waffle iron falls onto the ground and explodes. And then it's like, oh, well, maybe I'll make French toast. And then you make French toast, but you make French toast, but your French toast is all soggy and stuff. So then it's just like, oh, well, I guess there wasn't really anything you could do about that. So that's pretty much like prep for me. Usually, like pancake batter usually makes like a billion pancakes, so it's great for leftovers and stuff like that. Waffles are kind of the same, but I mean, for waffles, like I feel waffles go a lot faster than pancakes, but I mean, it just all depends on what you're talking about. Um, or the kind of crowd you're serving. I don't know. I've never made waffle mix that wasn't like a billion waffles worth. So there's that. I mean, pancake batter you can obviously make smaller amounts. And I mean you can do with waffle batter too, but I mean like I've just never been in that experience. I currently don't own a waffle iron, so I don't make a whole lot of waffles myself these days, but I've definitely had a good chunk of waffles in my life at this event or that, or you're over at someone's place and they're like, "Oh, I made waffles," and you're like, "Oh, you're the best." True story. So, usually for waffles, I usually like to, I guess I'll start with pancakes because I'll go in the same order throughout the whole thing. So, I read pancakes before, and for pancakes, I really, really, really enjoy topping pancakes with the same thing every time. And that same thing is 100% of the time peanut butter. I don't know what it is, but pancakes to me just taste best with just peanut butter. Um, I've I've never had pancakes with like cinnamon sugar or stuff like that on them. Usually I leave that for French toast if I'm going that avenue, or just regular toast. But it just depends, right? I mean, everyone's got their own kind of flavor there. Um, Another good way that I like serving pancakes for myself is, again, like I said, I'll throw some mini M&Ms in there, and then kind of cook that up. Um, when you make your pancake batter and you're doing the mixes and stuff like that, just like before you're ready to start or not oven, frying pan, and ladling it out into little blobs. Throw some M&Ms in there, or if you want, you can always throw some M&Ms in after. So you kind of ladle out the little spoonfuls of pancake batter onto your frying pan, and then after that, then it's like, oh hey, now I can put in an M&M or two or three, or make little funny designs in them. Hello Bex, hello Asmi. Uh, I was just talking earlier, Asmi, about how today's GDO show is brought to you by you asking around the other day. um, so yeah, again, sometimes fruit works really well too. Um, it kind of depends for pancakes, because for pancakes, I'm not a big fan of putting things on top of my pancakes, because I would rather have it pre-baked into the mix so it's all good to go. Like, having pancakes and then putting things on top of them is not the not the best way to go for me. Like, if I'm having blueberries or M&Ms or any sort of stuff like that on a pancake, I want it on the pancake, like while I'm cooking it. So that way it kind of goes in, it gets all melty, it gets all warm, and it's all good like that. Um, the others are definitely not the same though. Um, for waffles, it's very much the opposite. So for pancakes, the golden rule for me is cook it into the pancake and then eat the pancake. But for waffles, because of the construction of a waffle, it's not as bready, it's not as cakey, it's not as fluffy, right? It's nice on the inside, but the outside has that crispy outer texture to it, right? So for a waffle, you want to for a waffle, I like having the waffle just made plain, don't not with anything on it or anything. But then after that, then you can put stuff on top of it, because you got like that nice crispy outer exterior, and then you can just go crazy, go ham putting stuff on it, because it's not going to instantly sog right away. So for a pancake, if you were to like put like berries and cream or something on it, I mean, sure, it tastes delicious, but when you take that bite of pancake, it's probably going to be a mushy bite of pancake, because all the juices and stuff from your fruit has like socked into the top of it. And that's why I prefer peanut butter on pancakes, because peanut butter is like a nice, thick, heavy something that you can just like throw on your pancake, and then it's just really nice to eat like that. Um, Another really popular option for pancakes, obviously, is syrup, and I mean that just goes without saying. Like, I mean, syrup is it's a thing that comes and goes for me, because I definitely I definitely don't like maple syrup. Like it's definitely not the Canadian thing to say about that, but at the same time it's just true. Like I really dislike the taste of pure maple syrup. And I mean, pure maple syrup like comes not very often. I mean, it first off it's expensive. So that's just why I don't buy it. But aside from that, like pure maple syrup is just really sweet. And I mean, if you're having a pancake and you throw on some butter or something like that, you're making it a little bit more creamy, but the sweetness still kind of cuts through a little bit. So, I mean, if you have butter on a pancake, it's like it just tastes good. Like butter is nice and salty, it's nice and creamy. Like you get something nice out of your pancake. So, it's just it's just a nice way to go about it. Again, for personal preference, I don't really like it because, again, and although this is delicious, it's still true. Syrup does sog a pancake really fast just because of the way that they're made up. So, unless you have like a pancake that's been like ultra cooked, you're probably gonna be eating a bit of a soggy pancake with that's drenched in syrup. Not that that's a bad thing because I think a lot of people aim for that when they're making pancakes, just because it's just something like pancakes are just like the vehicle to harness the terrible sugar. But I mean, it is what it is, right? So waffles are next on the list. Um, Again, like I said, waffles are a bit sturdier, so you can obviously uh, you can obviously put more on a waffle before it starts to lose its structural integrity. Because waffles are crispy because of all the oil and stuff. Um, my favorite way to have waffles, and I mean, I guess I won't go into my favorites so much. I'd rather go into other people's favorites. So before I get started talking about waffles, let's just read what other people on Twitter said about waffles. So again, Banana Nana Batman said just plain cinnamon sugar on waffles, and that just sounds really good. Um, uh, at Sayla Brie said waffles are the most resistant to topping sog, which means you can take your time eating them, and they have the best variety because they're crispy and soft. Top them with cream cheese syrup. It's all you need. I've never heard of cream cheese syrup. That sounds really good, but I imagine it's just obviously I imagine it's just cream cheese mixed with syrup. But I mean, I could be wrong, but it sounds really good. At Bismuthi says just butter and maple syrup on waffles is heaven on a plate. I can agree with that. I'll go why I don't like that in a second, but it tastes good. I've had a lot of it. Um, Edicus at Demenicus. I'll just say Edicus because I know him as Edicus. Put Reese's Pieces crushed up into the waffle batter, put on the iron, press down, serve hot and fresh on a plate topped with whipped cream and chocolate syrup. So that's like Reese's Pieces in waffle batter, put in your waffle iron, and then drizzled with chocolate syrup and whipped cream. That sounds like it would give me diabetes, and that's why I'll probably end up trying that one day. I'm basic. Oh no, this is the Candy Boots one I talked about. Um, at Ben McDowell says I'm going based off the gluten-free versions of each, so waffles with cinnamon, strawberries, and some sort of sweet maple syrup. So again, waffles, cinnamon, strawberry, maple syrup. It's all about the fruit, all about the sweetness. People like their sweet waffles. Um, and then at Screech Life says waffles, fried chicken, maple syrup. That sounds good, and I'll get to that one when I start talking about the waffles. Uh, at Secret Humor Man says the GDQ waffles with whipped cream, strawberry syrup, and huge chocolate wafers. Don't pretend there's anything better. Those were definitely picture perfect waffles, and they also tasted really good. So, oh, let me see if I can find a picture of those as I'm talking. So that was everyone's talk about waffles. So for me, because waffles are nice and crispy, you can put so much more on top of it. My favorite thing to put on a waffle is strawberries, like kind of mushed strawberries, like mashed strawberries, I guess. Not fully mashed because you have some strawberry pieces, but some are like broken apart and stuff like that. But for the most part, like not full strawberry slices. Sprinkle some sugar in there, mix it all up, make it a nice meshy mass of deliciousness, and then uh, from there, just throw a ton of whipped cream on it, and there you go. Like easy, easy, good, easy, good waffles. Um, so that's my favorite thing to have on waffles. I've had a lot of different versions of waffles, and some are sweet, some are savory. They're not. They're typically not usually like not savory for breakfast, but when I was in Seattle a couple years ago, my friend at Talking Chicken said to me, "Hey, there's this really good waffle place. You should go to it. It's near the hotel you're staying at." And I was I was thinking to myself, okay, well, local need to know, right? So I tried it out, and I looked at their menu, and the thing I ordered off their menu was turkey Havarti waffles. And it was a really delicious waffle as the base. And then on top of that, it had slices of roast turkey topped with Havarti cheese that was melted on top of the waffle. And then it had bits of rosemary and thyme around it as well. And it was definitely one of the best waffles that I'd ever had. That was the first time I'd ever had something that was the first time I'd ever had something that was like a savory waffle. So I wasn't sure what to expect, but I found it. So the waffles that Secret Humor Man were talking about, I'm going to put them up on the screen over top for a sec. For anyone watching on YouTube, check out, because this will be the video on YouTube, so check it out. Um, if you're listening by audio only, you'll just have to picture how good these waffles look in your head. But there's a little bit of bacon and egg on the plate too. But these waffles that I had under here, we got like the waffle itself was like sitting underneath this great pile. So you have the waffle that you can kind of see on the bottom right, and then underneath that was all strawberry. It was like a strawberries and syrup mixture, and it was sweet and it was delicious because it tasted fresh, even though it probably wasn't, but it was good. And then, so it was doused in that, and then on top of that, there was a big thing of whipped cream, and then these little milk chocolate dipping wafers that I threw on as well. And this picture right here was easily the best breakfast that they had at AGDQ 2017. Like it was so good, and it wasn't the best waffles I've ever had because they were just basic waffles. And I mean, sourdough waffles are definitely the way to go when you're getting waffles. But that's just my opinion on that. Um, so for waffles, the crispiness definitely leads to more topping variety. Um, Again, like I said, turkey Havarti, I never would have ever expected to see it on a waffle, but there it was. Be still my beating heart, or be still my freezing heart, after the other waffle pick that I saw. Um, what Bismuth said about waffles, butter and syrup. One of the reasons I don't like butter specifically on waffles is simply because of um, simply because of the holes that are on a waffle. Because when you have a waffle, obviously it's got its waffle holes that are made by the waffle iron. And I mean, it's not a bad thing to have a ton of stuff in your waffle holes, as hilarious as that sounds. But when it pools, it gets really, really overbearing. Um, so when there's pools of butter inside the waffle, it's a little it's a little much for me, and so I kind of like having it spread out, and that's why for something like butter, I prefer to have it on a pancake or French toast compared to a waffle. So for waffles, again, definitely syrup is a good thing, or like syrupy substances, like those strawberries. Anything that's wet and juicy that you can pour over top of your waffle, and it's like little receptacles for your delicious sweet things. And I mean, making waffles and then filling up all those tiny little holes with syrup or strawberry syrup or chocolate. Well, chocolate syrup might be a little bit too rich, but it tastes good. I don't. Either way, just fill the holes with something and just eat it, and it just all the flavor just kind of comes straight into your face. So that's pretty much how I like to do waffles. Um, in terms of stuff that isn't fruit, um, I'm not a huge fan of chocolate syrup on anything, just because chocolate syrup is a little sweet for me, and I have teeth that are a little sensitive to thick, sweet things. So if it's too thick, like pasty, like most chocolate syrup is, then usually they start to hurt a little bit. But aside from that, just having like bits. Nutella is a little different. Like for me, I can handle Nutella, but that's Nutella is borderline. For example, like Nutella is fine as long as it's like with something, but like something that's a little firmer than that, like Reese's peanut butter cups are the best example I can give. If I bite into a Reese peanut butter cup, they taste really good, but they really sting. So there's not too much more I can say about how I like my waffles, uh, or how waffles are done. Obviously, you can make, and I've done this before and it tastes really good, but if you're looking for something for more desserty, cold crispy waffles, like if you cook your waffles a little too much and make them a little more firm, because if you cook waffles right, they should be a little crispy on the outside and soft on the inside, and Nobeck's French toast comes last. So waffles, if they're crispy on the outside, soft on the inside, eventually they'll cool and they might soften a little bit. But if you cook a waffle a little longer until they're nice and crispy all the way through, and then you take some ice cream and put them inside the waffle, and then maybe sprinkle some sugar on the waffles before you put the ice cream on there. You get a really nice ice cream sandwich out of that. And that's not really a breakfast food because, I mean, ice cream for breakfast sounds really good, but it's more of a desserty thing. It's like warm, crispy waffle with ice cream between them, and it tastes really, really good. um, Aside from that, going over what people said, those waffles that I showed the picture of on the stream are probably the best waffles I can think of how to dress them up. Normally, I would say don't need the chocolate wafers, and if you're making your own whipped cream, when you beat it up, it might not be as stiff as the ones shown in the picture, but it's still the same kind of thing. Now, next thing is chicken and waffles, and that's not a huge thing up here. Um, there aren't very many places in. I'm sure there are lots of places in Victoria that actually have chicken and waffles on their menu, but chicken and waffles I would consider not necessarily a breakfast food, because I mean it's waffles, but at the same time I feel like I could eat chicken and waffles as lunch or dinner kind of thing. So, I mean, take waffle, take some chicken, take some maple syrup, or just any other kind of fresh syrup. Or not necessarily fresh syrup, but I mean syrupy substance, and throw it over top. And that tastes really good. Like, it's the waffle is nice as it is, but then you have the crispiness of the chicken and the fattiness of the batter mixed with the sweetness of the syrup, and all three of them together just have a really nice balance together. So, I don't know. I've only ever had chicken and waffles for breakfast once. It was at this diner in Kitsilano, which is just outside of Vancouver. But if you talk to anyone from outside Vancouver, they'd tell you it's part of Vancouver, as I just avoided. Just gonna blow my nose again. So it was this breakfast diner that had a thing on their menu called the Mountie Special, or whatever it was called. I don't remember what it was called. It was something like Mountie Special. Anyway, what it was is it was a giant piece of French toast, like a really giant piece of French toast, like it was a large loaf of bread. And then on top of that was two gigantic pieces of fried chicken. And then on top of that was waffles. And then on top of that was two fried eggs. And then on top of the fried eggs there was a ton of pulled pork. And then on the very top of it there was two more big pieces of there was another just it was one another one big piece of French toast. And then on top of that there were two eggs, and then it was drizzled with maple syrup and some sort of like barbecue maple syrup. And it took a lot to eat. I did finish it all, but it was it was so good. And I wouldn't really call that a breakfast food either, but it was still sweet and savory. So I mean that kind of works for breakfast too, but that's not so much on the topic at hand. I just wanted to talk about it because it had to do with waffles. This was like 3 years ago, and it was like really, really good place to eat. So I don't know. Either way, it was pretty good. It was pretty good waffle that was in there. But yeah, aside from that, I don't know if you guys knew, but I really like eating food. So yeah. Okay, so the third thing on on the menu here, can't forget it because it's obviously just as important, is French toast. Now, like I said before, French toast always takes a back seat to the pancake and waffle debate because, like I said, pancakes and waffles have basically identical ingredients. Waffles are prepared in a slightly different way that makes them a little crispier instead of fluffier. But basically, they're the same thing on paper. French toast, on the other hand, is the third mighty titan in the breakfast debate, in my opinion, because although most people have good opinions on who should win in a fight between pancakes and waffles, French toast still harnesses like the same powers as waffles and French toast. Just it's like a billion times easier to make. Like for me, if I was making breakfast and I had the choice to, I wonder what I'm gonna have for breakfast: French toast, waffles, or pancakes. Well, first off, I don't own a waffle. I don't own a waffle maker, a waffle iron, so I can't make waffles. Rip, that's gone. Okay, I could make pancakes. Oh, I don't have all these billion ingredients I need to make pancakes. And I know it's not a billion, but one thing off definitely changes your pancake. Like, I mean, obviously you can just buy pre-made pancake batter, like I said, and just add water. But I mean, if you don't have any of that and you want to make them from scratch, delicious, delicious pancakes from scratch, it's like, oh, well, all this salt, sugar, baking powder, flour, where am I going to get all this stuff? And you don't want to spend the 10 minutes putting it together. Or, oh hey, I have a loaf of bread just sitting around and a couple eggs in my fridge, so I'm gonna make French toast. Like, the prep work needed to make French toast is definitely definitely the thing that definitely attracts me the most to it. Like French toast is like it's impossible to prepare it wrong because if you leave it in your wet mixer too long, oh, I guess I just need to fry it a little longer. Or I guess there are a bunch of ways to mess it up and I'll go through them one by one. So, first off, to make good French toast, and I don't know much about like professional prepping of French toast. This is just how I do it and the things I've found for it. Um, for French toast, the first thing that you really want is thick bread, thick sliced bread. So if you have like thin sliced bread or just a regular loaf of some cheap crappy bread that just isn't sliced very thick, you're probably going to have really terrible French toast. Because in order for French toast to like fully cook, it needs to be able to cook a little bit on the inside, but fully cook on the outside. And if you have if you have a thin slice of bread, it just fully cooks automatically. Like a thin slice of bread, by the time you cook it on one side and then flip it over, it's going to be fully cooked on the inside. So, that's where your milk comes in because if you just make French toast out of eggs, you're probably going to have a bad time because it's just egg. Like it's not going to penetrate your bread very well. But if you mix milk with it, you're making the inside of your bread soggy, which is what you want. So if it's a really thin slice of bread, you're going to have a soggy inside and a soggy outside right away. So when you cook it on one side, if you fry it really fast and then flip it and then fry it again, your bread is basically nothing but outside. So when you cut into it, it's going to be just a slice of bread. Like it'll just be an egg washed slice of bread. And I know that's kind of what French toast is, but it's a little more than just a dry outside. Like if your crust is what you taste when you bite your French toast, then that means your bread isn't thick enough. So, second thing that you can do when you make French toast that's bad is if you cook it too hot. So, with griddles, you just dump your batter in the metal and let it go to town. And then when it's done, it's done. For pancakes, you can kind of flip them over and check. And you can do that with French toast too. But with pancakes, you're starting as like a solid lump of just batter that you need to take care of. But with French toast, you just have a slice of bread in your frying pan or griddle. So so for your French toast, if you're cooking it too hot, your outside will cook just fine, and then you flip it, and then you cook the outside just fine. But remember, if you're using a bread that's thick enough, the inside of the bread is still going to be completely wet. And you want it cooked a little, but you don't want it completely untouched by the heat. So you need to let the heat penetrate the bread just a little bit. And I know it's just bread, but bread burns really fast. And egg burns really fast. So if you have it really hot, your French toast is going to cook way too fast, and by the time you have to flip it or take it off the heat, it's not going to be cooked all the way. And you can say the same thing with pancakes too, but I feel like with pancakes, it's a little easier to be able to control how thick they are, because with pancakes, you can just take the batter and spread it out a little bit, like when you originally dump it into the pan, so you can control your thickness. And I feel like crepes are something that I could talk about a little bit too, since they're fairly similar to, I guess they're not really that similar to pancakes, but I'll leave crepes for another talk because crepes are a little too separate as a thing. So, so you get your French toast. You're cooking it on like a medium low heat. You get your outside nice and golden brown and stuff like that. You flip it. Now what? It's just French toast. So, the thing I like about French toast is that French toast literally has the ability to hold everything on it. Pancakes get soggy really fast, and waffles don't get soggy as fast. But French toast are kind of in this middle ground where the like it doesn't matter if it gets soggy because the inside of it is probably still moist anyway. So, because you're just cooking bread, it's not going to be fluffy on the inside or anything. Like, French toast isn't meant to be fluffy. You're basically eating, like, a scrambled egg stuffed piece of toast. So, the inside of your bread is going to be having that anyway. So, the thing I like having on French toast for me, and I mean, I know I keep saying this every time, but I'm going to go through my list here and see who tweeted about French toast. I don't think I got that many French toasts. At fictitious scrib, or the fictitious scribbler, said French toast with cinnamon. Just straight cinnamon. That sounds pretty good. Um, what else do we have on here? Not many people said French toast. Um, at Shiner CCC said, missed my chance to vote for French toast. French toast has the best base form, but he says waffles has the highest potential. So, I mean, French toast at its base is, in my opinion, the best harnesser of food. Like, when you have French toast, if you eat a waffle when it's cold, that's great. If you eat a pancake when it's cold, that's great. But French toast tastes the same whether or not it's warm or not. Like, the creaminess and the inside of a French toast doesn't get worse with coldness or heat. It's always the same. So, I mean, uh, sorry, Atticus, you're right in the middle of it. um, French toast in itself has like the best creativity for a mind to go work at. So, again, something that I like on French toast more than anything else is just straight peanut butter. Because peanut butter is, I don't know, peanut butter just tastes really good on flat surfaces like that. I mean, obviously I like them on waffles too, but I would rather have other things on waffles. So it's like, I don't really need anything like that kind of thing. So let me find a picture on my computer here of a waffle or a French toast, sorry, that I ate when I was in Hawaii last December. Me and my family went to Hawaii, and one morning I decided, you know what, I want to try out a new place for breakfast. So I heard some people on the beach talking about this one breakfast place that was down the walk because we were staying in Kihei Beach, and it was very good, very sunny. I've never been in a place quite like Hawaii before with the weather, so it was really interesting having like all these different kind of weathers in one day, but it was really interesting. So I walk over to this place, and I look at their menu, and I mean they have lots of they have lots of Mexican treats, uh, and they have French toast on their menu, and I think, oh man, French toast, this can't be bad. So I order the French toast, and I sit down, and they're like, okay, we'll find you and bring your food. We know what you look like, so we'll just come grab you. So they bring out this French toast, and I don't have a huge sweet tooth, I guess. It's like, I mean, I kind of do, but at the same time, I kind of don't. Like, it just kind of depends. Uh, where were these waffles? Anyway, I don't know. So I feel like I know I talked about earlier how about like just butter and maple syrup is great on pancakes or stuff that doesn't make them soggy. Like um, I don't know, you could throw whatever you want on there. Um, and waffles are the opposite. They're crispier, so you can throw in something else on there, and it tastes just equally as good because I mean it's a waffle. It'll stay nice and good. But French toast is like this magical combination of the two where you can throw literally anything on it. Like you can throw butter and maple syrup. You could throw on fruit and whipped cream. You could throw on this and that and this and that and that and this. And it's literally all going to be really delicious just because of the makeup of it. And I finally found these French toast. So please prepare your body. This is going to be an incredible experience for the mind. So these were the waffles. Let me just rotate this. I don't even know how to do that actually. Position. Here, let me this is great, isn't it? Okay, everyone tilt your head to the left and you'll get a good view of these this French toast. So what this is oh, hang on a sec. I can no, I can't rotate it. So everyone tilt your head to the right. So what you're seeing here is a delicious French toast topped with syrup. So first off, there's syrup in there. Then there's powdered sugar, banana slices, and chunks of walnut. And there's three pieces of it, and they're all layered together with a nice mountain of all three ingredients right on the very top. And this was probably the most rich French toast I've ever had in my life. Like this was this was definitely like this was definitely the sweetest French toast I've ever had. Like French toast like this are just like oh, you can barely finish it because you got this really sweet taste in your mouth and it's all you can taste and you can't get rid of it because the only thing they gave you to drink was pog juice, which is uh, pineapple, orange, and guava juice, and it's served everywhere in Hawaii. But it was good and it was tangy, and it helped take the heat spice off of it. And I'm sorry, I'm scrambling my words because it just was so delicious. But it's like banana. It's just the banana and the powdered sugar and the syrup all together were definitely like probably the sweetest thing I'd ever tasted, to be honest. um, so that was good and all, but it was like I mean, the French toast was just perfectly cooked too. It was nice and crispy on the outside and was sort of crispy, but then it was moist on the inside, and then it was covered in all this stuff that just made it nice and moist and sweet, and that's just how French toast should be. Like, cover it in whatever strawberries you want or fruit, put whipped cream on it, put chocolate, put peanut butter, put just straight cinnamon sugar or just cinnamon, put cream cheese. You can put literally everything on French toast. But it's limited to that. That's the only key thing. Whereas waffles, you have this entire avenue where you can use it as sandwiches and you can use it as savory and you can do this and that and oh man, I'm just so animated talking about this because I'm just so excited, you know. So that's pretty much that's pretty much what I think about prepping and topping French toast. Like French toast has a gigantic avenue that you can take for a giant avenue you can take for what it is, but at the same time, is it better than what you can put on a waffle? Like, I mean, food isn't just about the taste. It's definitely about the texture and like the consistency of how you eat it, which I mean varies from person to person who makes it. So, I mean, that's just all how it goes. Like, in the end. Um, Overall, though, to summarize, I guess, uh, I missed a whole avenue that I was talking about pancakes. I wanted to talk about things alone, uh, but I mean it's hard to talk about them without putting them in their places of glory, basically. So I mean, obviously, when you have French toast, I think of French toast with like lots of fruit and sweetness coming into it. When I think of waffles, I think of I think of heavy substances that you can eat waffles with. For example, I like my waffles with lots of whipped cream and stuff like that, and chocolate and this and that. And I mean, fruit is good too, and syrup is good too, but I would rather have my waffles loaded with ingredients other than sugar. And I mean, even if you put like whipped cream and fruit on a waffle, you can still put sugar on or syrup on there too, and it tastes like really good. But then there's that whole avenue that I was talking about, savory breakfast waffles and stuff like that, and bacon waffles, and I mean, you can argue that you can do bacon pancakes too, because I mean, it's a giant thing from Adventure Time, right? Everyone loves making bacon pancakes. So, pancakes I want to revisit just because we talked about it so long ago. But for pancakes, very fluffy and soft requires um, requires things that don't disrupt the fluffiness. If you drench them with things that make them soggy, all of a sudden it's not fluffy anymore. You have, unless they're thin pancakes, unless they're thick pancakes. If you have a thick pancake, you can make the top layer soggy and uh, make them thicker and easier to eat like that. But then at the same time, if you have a thick pancake, they're much heavier to eat as well. So if you have a heavy pancake, that might disrupt the gleefulness of there. For me personally, I would rather make pancakes with a breakfast meal. If I'm eating waffles, I mean, obviously you can pair any of the three with bacon and sausage and ham or Canadian bacon or whatever you have you. Um, Obviously, bacon being the best of the three, in my opinion. Or you can substitute or have them with like things like hash browns, or in some parts of the world you might call them home fries, or other sorts of potato wedges or stuff like that. You know, typical breakfast kind of things, or like potato cakes, I guess. But I feel like waffles and French toast I can eat more on their own, whereas with pancakes I would rather have them with eggs and toast. Or not eggs and toast, pancakes with eggs and maybe some sort of other thing like a slice of a slice of melon or something like that. I don't know. Pancakes I don't generally like eating alone as a pancake because they're not as satisfying to eat for me. Whereas if I eat a waffle or some French toast, then I mean I'm good to go. I just eat those, especially if they have lots of good stuff on them. The only difference for pancakes that swing that is if you cook food into them. For example, if I cooked pancakes with M&Ms or blueberries or any kind of small fruit inside the pancake, then then it's a lot easier to eat by itself because you have like a bite of fluffy, cakey pancake, and then you have that burst of fruit that comes through. So pancakes in a nutshell. For waffles, I prefer to leave the batter alone myself and add things to them. Uh, Obviously, we had uh, people preferring cinnamon sugar and chocolate or Reese's pounded into the batter beforehand and then put into the waffle iron. But I don't know. I myself prefer good sourdough waffles in the waffle iron, cooked, and then after that, when they're on your plate, then you start piling out with the extra stuff. And I showed the one picture from the Games Done Quick breakfast, and I mean those weren't the best waffles because I mean obviously homemade waffles are the best, but for the stuff they had to put on them, you could dress them up and they tasted very good. And lastly, French toast, very versatile food. As it sits alone at the top as a base for anything. You can use French toast as a sandwich. You can, but most of the time I prefer French toast sweet, so it's kind of limited by that construct going on after it. So French toast, you can pile it with fruit, you can pile it with syrup, you can pile it with whatever else. Just make sure it's sweet and make sure it tastes really good. So top three preferences. I didn't really know what I was planning to do this part. I think I was planning to talk about my ideal dish for each of the three that I would pit together. Um, Obviously, when I asked in my Twitter poll earlier today, I asked everyone, when you think of pancakes versus waffles versus French toast, I wanted people to think of I wanted people to think of the best version of each of the three that people could come up with, so it wasn't unfair. For example, if you thought of just plain waffles mixed with plain French toast, it's like, well, okay, well, that's great, but I mean, that's just like the bread alone. Like, you can't do it. I want you to dress them up to the best that you can think of, to the most delicious thing you would have on each of the three pedestals, and then compete those against each other without detracting from the fact that you're eating pancakes, waffles, and French toast. For example, if you like crumple up the French toast and put it in a cake and then eat the cake, I mean, you're eating a cake now. You're not eating French toast anymore, kind of thing. So that's kind of how I wanted that to go. So for pancakes, the best pancakes I could think of, uh, off the top of my head, I did think of this a little earlier, but I mean it's really hard to like pinpoint a pancake for me just because of what I like to have on it. For me, for a, a good pancake, it would be a stack of 2 or 3 pancakes with blueberries in them, and then just butter on them. And then usually with pancakes, I like to put my bacon on top of my pancakes, and then eat each chunk of pancake with a piece of bacon, because that way you get the fluffiness of the pancake, the sweetness of the blueberries that are inside them, and then you got that nice salty, chewy bacon as well that goes all along there. So the three together just kind of morph together into a really good taste. Judging the pancake by itself, for me, like I said earlier, pancakes are the lowest of the three, and so that's where I sit that at. So pancakes are definitely the bottom of the barrel there, for me anyway. Um, just gonna blow my nose one more time. For waffles. Waffles are definitely the hardest one for me to think about because I've had a lot of really delicious, really good different waffles. And I know I've said this a couple times, but sourdough waffles are probably the best way to go for me. If anyone has sourdough to make from scratch, it's definitely worth it. Um, but it's definitely a little more involved than just regular waffle batter. So sourdough waffles, put it in the griddle and get yourself some waffles as a base. So on top of that, either like I said earlier, um, take some strawberries, or you could do it with blackberries as well. Um, Kind of mush them up a little bit, sprinkle some sugar in there until you have like a nice like pasty. It's not pasty. It's like it's just a syrup basically. Syrupy strawberry sauce that you can put over top of your waffles. Throw that on there, throw on some whipped cream, maybe sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon right on the very top, and just there you have it. Devour these fruity, crispy, creamy, sugary tasting waffles. Like it's definitely diabetes on a plate, but it's definitely the way to go about that. French toast. Uh, Honestly, the best French toast I could describe is that French toast I showed a picture of in Hawaii. Just take a bunch of French toast, drizzle some syrup on it, maybe dump some a little bit of icing sugar on there as well, or something to make it white and sugary a little bit. Take some crumbled up walnuts or uh, pecan pieces and kind of sprinkle them on there, and then just kind of slice some fruit. You could do strawberries, blueberries, banana works. If you were doing banana, I wouldn't do the nuts because banana and nut goes really well together. If you were going just fruit, I would maybe go after the icing sugar, maybe throw on some blueberries, strawberries, blackberries works too. Maybe spread a little bit of um, jam on each of the French toast as well, and then just kind of throw that all together into a pile, and then just syrup over top. Make it nice and sweet and good. Or even in that case, if we were doing berries, I would probably drizzle maybe a little bit of warm chocolate sauce over the top as well. And then there you have it. Really, really good, delectable French toast. So those are probably the best things that I can think of. Again, pancakes really need other things to make them good for me because pancakes are all a part of the meal. I very rarely crave pancakes, but when I do, it's usually they need something to amp them up a little bit. Whereas waffles, they're really difficult to make compared to the other two, but because they require like stuff and ingredients. But for waffles, it's like the your waffle is a plate, and you fill that plate with food, and then you eat the food and the plate, and it just tastes really good. French toast, it's it's like the best thing that you can eat just straight up without anything on it. But then when you do add stuff on it, it's definitely it definitely just like amplifies the base. So the showdown. This is this is basically my verdict on the three. I mean, if you've been listening closely, you probably know which is going to win anyway. Um, the Twitter poll that I ran earlier today, in third place, the Twitter poll had 58 votes. I had the Twitter poll open for 7 hours today. It was a 7-hour poll that ran from I think I ran it from like 8:30 until 4, so it was like 7.5 hours, or maybe 3:30, I don't know, something like that. Anyway, in third place with 24% of the vote was French toast. People really didn't prefer French toast over the other two. 28% of the poll was pancakes. Uh, People liked them about as much as French toast. They were pretty tied. But with a whopping 48%, people chose waffles as their favorite. And I mean, it even showed like in the comments. Like, I mean, some people told me the best way they wanted pancakes. They told me the best way they liked French toast. But like almost all the comments that I got on the poll for people giving me like their reasoning was what they wanted on a waffle. Like waffles are definitely definitely the most popular, I think, on the internet. It like you could I mean, that was just a small poll of 58 people, but I mean, going on a larger scale, like the waffle pancake debate will always go on, I'm sure, with French toast tagging in there to get its own little set of votes. But yeah, I don't know. For me personally, um, my favorite of the three is French toast, just because for French toast, first off, it's way easier to make than the other two, and that only adds a little bit to it. The other thing that makes it really a winner in my heart is that if you have extra French toast, you can just warm it up or even eat it cold or make it on sandwiches. French toast is always good for anything. And then when you do have it warm and you make it for breakfast, it tastes really good because it's French toast. That's just all there is to it for me. So that's pretty much it for what I had this week. The the part one of breakfast. What more can I say? Pancakes, waffles, French toast. It's definitely a good thing to talk about. Um, Most of it was talking about like how they're served, but I mean obviously I did define what I would consider each was, how they're made, and stuff like that. Um, Breakfast is definitely my favorite meal to make, and I'm gonna get more into what I like for breakfast next week when we talk about eggs, because next week is, like I said, eggs are probably my favorite thing to eat for breakfast because I always have eggs on me. I like them. They're good with all sorts of foods, and you can literally throw them in anything. So I don't know exactly if I'll have an entire show to talk about eggs because, I mean, they are what they are. So I'll probably combine eggs and meats together tomorrow or next week into a show, and then I'll talk about all sorts of breakfast kind of style for eggs and breakfast style for meats. Um, like I said at the beginning, the game of this week's GDO show was The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Um, I I definitely had a lot of fun with it. I only beat the first two dungeons while I was playing because when I started getting into talking about waffles and French toast, I got really into it and I actually had to turn off the game because I couldn't concentrate on what I was talking about. And then I had to find the pictures and stuff like that. So it was definitely a little engrossing. So yeah, there was that. So uh, again, that's it for this week. If something comes up on the week, I might switch it for breakfast because having four shows in a row talk about breakfast is a little bit much. But at the same time, uh, it's the GDO show. If you don't like it, you can always tune in to the shows that you want to hear about. Um, Again, in the future, I'm probably going to have another show talking about breakfast, which is after eggs. I'm not sure what I'm going to throw in there. It's more like just for traditional breakfast kind of thing. I might talk about. I don't really know what I'm going to talk about. There was a lot of stuff I kind of wanted to talk about in this week's, like uh, other countries. I have a Finnish dish that I eat for breakfast that my mom makes really well called rapsua, which is like a Finnish pancake. It's more like an oven baked pancake loaf kind of, and it's kind of gelatinous a little bit, but it's still really good. And I don't know, it just didn't fit into like the traditional categories I was throwing in here. So anyway, that's it for this week for the GDO show. Uh, I guess I'll stop the timer. We did it in sub 144. Good stuff. So next week we'll be talking about eggs or whatever. Tune in to any notifications to what have you, or what I might talk about on the GDO show at Garage Door Opener on Twitter. That's at GARAGEDOOROPENER. If you're watching on YouTube and you had any questions about the show or wanted to add any comments or wanted to throw any questions my way, uh, contact at thegdoshow@gmail.com. Um, but other than that, yeah, tune in next week and I'll have something for you then right here on twitch.tv/garage door opener at 5 p.m. PDT. So till next time, that's me. I'll catch you throughout the week.